All right, 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. It is the Postgame Show, right?
You are a part of this show.
Okay.
Right? Are you?
I don't know.
Regular? I don't know.
Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips.
Just glad you found the place.
After a little over a week away from the facility here in downtown Columbia, South Carolina. Again, if you just were tuning into the final few minutes of the halftime show, yours truly and the family down at Litchfield for a week. And I do love Litchfield. I do. Nice week, good weather. Hot a few days, but, you know, it's July in the South, so that's going to happen. But when the ocean is right there, it helps, you know. But my streak of seeing at least one dolphin in the ocean has ended. I'm kind of disappointed, man. Didn't see. My wife saw one. She was out there ahead of me one morning. So I did not see a dolphin this year. Usually I see a few. She said she only saw one, just kind of bobbing along. Usually, you know, they kind of, what is a dolphin? Is that a pod? Is that what they swim in? A pod?
A pod? Like a group of them?
Yeah, like a group, you know?
Huh.
I don't know.
A pod
I think
of dolphins?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that's right. Anyway, I didn't see one.
I'll start calling the Miami Dolphins running backfield a pod of dolphins. Yeah.
There you go. That'll work. No,
Loaded backfield, it's a pod of dolphins.
If that's the correct term, then I'm here for it. But celebrated the 4th and did see the flyover for Salute from the Shore, which also the F-16s came here to Columbia and did a little pass around Lake Murray. It's pretty cool watching those things fly as fast as they do. And then at Litchfield, sort of the halfway point, and the folks that run Salute from the Shore actually have like a house at Litchfield that they, I guess, have invited a whole bunch of people, and they do like a loop at Litchfield, and then they head on down past Pawleys and on to Charleston and Beaufort County and whatnot.
They give you a little something extra.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, man.
Up there in the skies.
And they do the little wing dip, like the wave, you know, like how y'all doing? Going at whatever miles per hour.
Fast miles per hour.
Yes.
That's it.
And then the old vintage craft that were going not fast miles per hour. And I say this as a Southerner. I say this as a Southerner. Like, bless their hearts. They're flying directly against the wind, man. You know, like Bob Seger is just in your head the whole time, you know. But instead of running against the wind, you're flying against the wind. But I mean, because that's just the prevailing wind goes up the coast. And so they're
trying their best.
I feel bad.
They're trying their best.
I'm like, how much gas y'all got in those things? Because you got to go all the way to Beaufort County and then turn around and come back. Maybe they'll let you hang out there. I think Savannah has a base they could maybe land and refuel if they needed to or something. I don't know. But anyway, had a good time. Hope all of you had a safe and enjoyable 4th. The only problem was that there was one, I mean, and they were nice people, but there was one really large family staying near us, extended family for certain. And, man, they shot off some fireworks late into the evening. And I like fireworks as much as the next guy, I assure you.
After 2 a.m.
But after a while, well, they didn't go all the way to 2, but they didn't stop for a while, dude. And I was like, how many did y'all buy? Like, why don't you save some for tomorrow? Maybe, you know, so not complaining. It was fun for a little bit, but then after a while, I was like, all right, it's loud. They kept going. They shot them off for. And it was pretty much a whole, and you're saying like, oh, it was probably multiple people or like multiple families. No, it was just one extended family. And
there's a lot of them.
There were a lot of them, man. Like, you know, like the tailgate tent, like everybody, like, you know, your standard, like, put up a tent, tailgate. They had like 5 of those across every day on the beach.
That'd be like a family reunion, goodness.
Must have been, yeah, probably so. And that, again, that's cool. I'm here for it. Like, bring the family. Hadn't seen the cousins and your brothers and sisters and whatever, and grandma and grandpa. And they had like a whole cookout on the 4th of July on the beach. I mean, they were doing it up. I appreciate that. I'm not here to. But the fireworks that went on for like more than 2 hours, I was like, all right, you know what? Even Disney World only shoots them for like 15 minutes. You know?
I respect the commitment to the bit. I mean, if you bought all those fireworks and you have zero intention on bringing those bad boys back home,
yeah. I mean,
that's the day to do it. That's the day to
empty the clip. You may as well go ahead and unload on it, and they did, brother.
they
did.
Fun.
You were in St. Augustine, yes?
I was. A whole lot of fun. One of my best friends.
Any fireworks down there?
We had a lot of fireworks. Yeah. So I basically hung out during the day with one of my best friends from high school. He flew in from Arizona. His sister and her fiance own a dive bar, and they live right behind it. So I got to crash with them, and me and my friend Alex went to his dad's house in St. Augustine, right next to the beach, and did 4th of July with their extended family, and it's the first time I've ever had a 4th of July barbecue that involved crab legs.
Nice.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, crab legs.
They did them up real well.
Crab legs, you and I were talking about earlier. Crab legs are work, but it's good work.
Very
it's like
good
eating,
work.
It's like eating crawdads. Like it's work, but it's worth it.
Love crab legs.
Yeah.
So I had a blast. For the first time in my life, had a 4th of July plate with, the regulars, burgers, potato salad, some fries, and some crab legs. It was great.
Nice.
I loved it. We had a lot of fireworks, a lot of fun, and I come back with all 10 fingers.
That's good. That's always important.
And toes.
That's always important. Who was the football player that?
Oh, Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yeah, speaking of the Dolphins, right?
No, he's
Buccaneer.
a giant. Yeah, he was a giant turned Buccaneer.
Okay, there you go. I knew it was Florida for a second, but okay. Yeah.
He was Florida man for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
I was Florida man for 4th of July, and there's one big difference.
Yeah. Well, again, hope all of you had a safe one, whether you were here in town or at the coast or the mountains or wherever. But nice to be back here. We got a week in Columbia and then a week in Dallas next week, and that's kind of the theme of the week. We'll be starting to talk about Media Day stuff. This year is interesting. Obviously, we have 2 new schools in the Southeastern Conference, both Texas and Oklahoma, now official members of the SEC as of 1 week ago today. So congratulations. Welcome aboard. A lot of expectations around Texas football this year, seemingly lower expectations around Oklahoma football. And yet I would think within those 2 programs, respectively, Oklahoma expects to do more on a more regular basis. In fact, did you realize that I saw this on Josh Pate this morning, I believe, or maybe on The Athletic. Before 2023, so going back 10 years, so 22 to, I guess, 13, Texas was averaging more than 5 losses per season.
Yeah, there were some dark days. Tom Herman days were pretty rough.
And they talk the article. It was The Athletic. Now that I think about it, the article mentioned how Texas has a habit at times of playing down to certain opponents, and that you really can't do that in the Southeastern Conference, but. How Texas is viewed, and look, the media days are in Texas this year. Obviously, I just said that. Look, Georgia is still the best team in the conference. I don't know. Look, I know Texas. I say this. I'm not a revisionist historian. We all know that Texas went to Tuscaloosa and won last year, and really that win. More than any other single factor is why Texas and then subsequently Alabama made it into the college football playoff. But if that game were mid-October toward the end of the season, Texas doesn't win that game. They got not lucky. Lucky has too much of a not negative connotation, but I think and so I'm playing semantics here with you. Mm-hmm. I think they were fortunate to play Alabama when Alabama thought they were going to do one thing offensively and began to realize that they couldn't. And I think that's why Texas won that football game. Then Alabama went down to Tampa and had that just slog of a game against USF. But it was basically a total reset game. Nick didn't care. He basically told the defense, look, you're not going to let them score, and so that's good, but it's going to be tight because we're basically reworking the entire offense in 1 week. And then it just so happened to be on a rainy field in Tampa. But they won the football game, and then Alabama went on to be, Milroe had his season, and then everything was fine, air quotes, for Alabama from that point forward, right? So, anyway, yes, you've done that. Yes, you went to Tuscaloosa and won. But I do want people around the Southeastern Conference to have an appreciation for that particular moment on both sides. Because it is hard to go to Tuscaloosa and win. But I don't think Texas beats Alabama after 3 weeks of the new offense under Milroe. That's my personal opinion. And again, that's what we do here. So can they replicate those things? How good is Oklahoma? I'm curious about that one, too. Speaking to Josh Pate of CBS Sports today on his, I guess it came out last night, but I saw it this morning. He has given us his opinion of the top 15 programs in college football over the next 3 full seasons. So 24, 25, 26, what he's looking at. And by and large, I think most people will agree with it. There's a couple in here that I'd be like, I don't know about that. But otherwise, pretty good. We'll go over some of those things for you. But Elijah and I, this week, will be talking a lot about media days. And what we're going to do, and we want input from you guys as well, please, 803-404-6100, is we're going to take the 4 schools per day next week. So Monday, like a week from today, the 4 schools are LSU, Carolina, Mississippi, and Vanderbilt. Also, next Monday, the commissioner will start things off with his kind of state of the conference address. So we're going to take a look, and I have Elijah and I have agreed that we will write down a question or two for each of these schools without divulging it to the other. So we will have an open discussion. Carolina today is kind of an exception because that's who we cover a lot.
We'll be going into all of those questions.
And I mean, and we got
depth as the summer continues.
So Carolina is an exception just because we're gonna, in all of August, we'll be breaking down Carolina as much as we can. But so I wrote some things down for LSU, for Mississippi, and for Vanderbilt. By the way, next Monday will be the only day where each of the other schools is a Carolina opponent. So there's no other day where like all 4, because you only have, they only have 8 conference games. And that's one of the things, I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag, that I'd like to hear from Greg Sankey. I don't think we will. I don't think we get any further schedule format guidance at media days, but I really want it. I'd rather have schedule format guidance than any potential conference expansion guidance. And quite honestly, and they won't listen to me, they should, but they won't. I don't think the Southeastern Conference should expand within the next 5 years. I don't even care if they handed you 2 schools like on a silver platter. The exceptions would be if you knew everything was going to be fine and you got North Carolina and Virginia. That'd be it. Because then you need to take those new markets. Beyond that, and even then, I'd be like, And you and I saw one guy today saying that they don't bring any football value. It's not all about football value.
And it doesn't matter that much with football value.
And quite honestly, I'll leave y'all with this for just a second. If you just added Oklahoma and Texas, you don't really want to keep adding a bunch of powerful programs into the conference, because eventually what happens is you cannibalize each other. And then all of a sudden, maybe you're not a conference with 4 or 5 bids to the college football playoff, which is what I think the Southeastern Conference is quietly maybe not even quietly.
That was the goal with expansion of the playoff itself, was to simply get more teams in it, because they knew they would.
The SEC wants a third of this field at like worst, I feel, right? Like you want 4. Like you now believe you're going to have at least 4 into the 12-school format, which is why I also think they're getting ready to head to 14 or 16 soon enough anyway. But what are your questions about LSU, who comes to Columbia? Ole Miss comes to Columbia. Vanderbilt is there, yeah? Those are the teams today. What do you want to hear from Greg Sankey? 803-404-6100. Hit us up. We'll get into all of those things and more as the postgame show rolls on. I love telling you about our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. You know, unlike big banks, when you save at Palmetto Citizens, your money stays here in the Midlands. They don't pay stockholders. They don't loan out of state or out of the country. Your dollars stay here. They support your neighbors. They support local businesses. They support local charitable organizations. And since they are a not-for-profit credit union, they also offer better rates on a variety of savings accounts, including CDs, money markets, and other savings options. Plus, all the regular banking things that you need, your checking account, a credit card, or you can get car loans, home equity lines, student loans, mortgage. Hey, whatever the money is needed for, they've got it for you at Palmetto Citizens. And they've been doing it since 1936. So, you know, they know what's up. My wife and I are customers. We use the Millwood branch, 14 locations all across the Midlands. To learn more about how they can save you money when you save with them, check out palmettocitizens.org and achieve your potential. All right, welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show on this Monday. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Yours truly. Glad to be back after a little more than a week away down at the beach. Elijah was down at the beautiful St. Augustine area. Did you go to the
country?
Did you go to the big fort?
The fort? Absolutely. That's the part of town where I spent most of my time.
Nice.
That's the best part, man.
Dude,
it's
that
like
fort,
being in a time machine.
That fort is awesome. I mean, that's one of that's like one of the oldest things in our country because that thing's old.
From the 1500s.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, when the city was established by the Spanish.
That thing is cool.
It's awesome.
I mean, because I didn't know. I've told this story before. So we were driving down to the Carolina-West Virginia bowl game, and I'll never do that again. And I think I've said that before on the air too. I'll never drive to Miami again. At least, Fort Lauderdale, but I'll never do that again, dude.
That sounds miserable.
That's so far.
That's a long trip, brother.
You get to Daytona and you realize we got how far? Basically felt like Daytona was halfway, and I was like, I'm never doing this again.
No. But
anyway, in an effort to break things up, we did stop along the way. So the first stop we made was St. Augustine. And again, I didn't quite realize then how much farther we still had to go, but we stopped there on the way down, not on the way back. And I'd never been to St. Augustine. I'd been to Jacksonville many times. But when we got there, I was like a little kid, and I was 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
The place is amazing.
Just running around looking at old stuff, and and then we had lunch at some cool. They got that little old town area. I don't know what they call it, but just that little area of shops and bars and whatnot.
Yeah, their little downtown area. It's still cobblestone on the road.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fantastic.
That was great.
It's the same way it's been for hundreds of years. It rules, man.
But had a good time. So I encourage you, any of you that are heading down that way at any point, maybe to Disney or going to a cruise or something, stop off at St. Augustine give yourself a couple hours.
Yeah, give yourself a couple hours, go downtown, park your car, walk around a little bit, see the fort.
The fort's awesome, man.
Love it.
I just did not know how cool it was going to be until I got there. So anyway, we have a little bit of breaking news with Carolina football. I'll turn it over to Elijah Campbell with more.
That's right. Our pal Wes Mitchell, who you can hear every day on these airwaves in the midday slot, says defensive lineman Boogie Huntley, athlete Luke Doty, and linebacker Debo Williams will represent South Carolina at SEC Media Days next week per release. That is Wes at Wes Mitchell GC on Twitter. So we have our attendees announced for SEC Media Days regarding the Gamecocks.
So Alex and Debo will be talking all things defense, and Luke Doty will be telling stories of growing up at the beach and surfing.
That's right. Best Myrtle Beach surf stories.
That's what I'm picturing. No, that's cool. I didn't know who they were going to take. I figured that Alex Huntley would go. Wasn't sure about who else Shane wanted to take or what the process is like. By the way, I texted Steve Fink this morning. I was going to try to get a few assistant coaches on, but Shane has given the staff the whole week off, so we will not have anybody. But we'll see Shane on Monday. He's going to stop by. In Dallas. And, of course, we'll have the golf tournament not long after that. Is it too late for us to sign up for that, by the way? I know I'm not playing golf, but I'm asking that live on the air.
Maybe.
I'll call Steve.
I definitely don't know that answer live on the air.
Hey, can we do the show out there and get all those people again? Thanks.
That was really cool. Like to do it again. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. But we'll have some more intel on that for you coming up a little bit later on. All right, so Boogie, Doty, and Debo. There you go. Again, if you're just tuned in, Media Days starts next Monday in Dallas. And what Elijah and I have decided here is that we're just going to go over, day by day over the next 4 days, the schools that are going, whether they're Carolina opponents or not. And obviously, only half of them are in today's Southeastern Conference world. So, what's a major question? And again, next Monday, the commissioner will also speak. I'm going to start with Greg Sankey, if you don't mind, just for a second here, Elijah. Like I said earlier to you, I want to hear some genuine guidance on what the future looks like beyond the next 2 seasons. We know now that both the 24 and 25 schedules will be the same. You will simply, next season, 25, flip the field. So whoever comes to your place this year, you're going to their place next year, and vice versa. But beyond that, in 26, I have a hunch that they're going to go to 9. But I think they want to see how things play out this year with the playoff invitations and how many 2-loss teams get in. That's really what I think. 2 or maybe even 3 loss teams. And I'll remind everybody, when it comes to the new format, remember, the top 4 seeds will be the top 4 highest-ranked conference champions. So I think, is the ACC still divisional this year?
Nope, not anymore.
They're not either. Okay.
I believe last year was the first year of their new
Okay,
format.
I could, these things all run together, man, so I forget sometimes. So
There's a lot.
Big Ten divisionless?
Yep, divisionless for the first time.
Okay. And the
Leaders
SEC?
and legends, no more.
Yeah,
That's been gone for a while.
I know, but that was dumb. So the odds of a 3-loss conference champion as a top 4 are rather slim, I would think. But I think you could see a 2-loss conference champion potentially, right? Could.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's a chance you will. Certainly in the Big 12. The Big 12 is going to cannibalize itself.
Yeah.
A lot. I guess my biggest hot take coming into the season is that we will have a team that plays a bye or gets a bye, doesn't have to play in the first round of the playoff, who does have multiple losses.
And I'm kind of, like I say, I'm here for that. Look, I love the traditions of college football and the things we hold dear, but what I have grown weary of is this notion that well, if you're undefeated, you're better than the other guy. Well, I don't know. Again, I liked what Florida State did last year, but Florida State wouldn't have been favored against any of those other teams in the top 5 or 6. Doesn't mean they're bad. Just means other teams are better. But they, other than Georgia, and again, Georgia got hosed. But I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to dig those things up. But we need to get used to that. And I know we're going to have some kicking and screaming for a little bit from certain corners of college football fandom all around the country. 2-loss to this is terrible, And yes, listen, in some of these games, just like when there was only a 4-team playoff, there are going to be some ugly games. And I don't mean ugly close games. I mean like somebody's probably going to kick somebody's tail, maybe a couple of times. It happens in sports.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to change it. So, just do yourself a favor. Don't do me a favor. Don't do them a favor. Do yourself a favor. If you're in that camp of they didn't need to expand, let it go. Let it go. Because they've expanded, and the only thing you will not see retraction. You will likely see further expansion. Again, I think this thing's going to go to 16. I wouldn't even go to 14. Which they've already basically said they're going to do without saying that's what we're going to do. They really have. I'm like, just go to 16.
A slow expansion to 16.
And so I bring that all the way back around to what I want to hear from Greg Sankey. What are you working on for the future? Don't be coy. Let's people like to know these things. And college football is a sport that has long been built around looking ahead to the future. And I'll get into these Josh Pate ratings a little bit later. That's what Josh has done for the next 3 years. And I like the exercise that he undertook. But that's what I want to hear from Greg more than I want to hear about, because he's not going to, even if he were to mention realignment or expansion of the conference, he's not going to say, hey, here's the list of 8 schools, and we're going to maybe add 2 or 4 of them. Because he's not doing that. So while I do care about that, I really want to know, what is the Southeastern Conference scheduling format going to look like? That's what I'm here for from him.
That's a more pressing issue.
Yeah.
And a more reasonable one to be concerned about
And I get playing a little bit of a waiting game. And Carolina fans, you're not going to get to see Georgia or Tennessee for a couple of years. We'll get into some other thoughts on the other teams, LSU, Ole Miss, Vandy, as the postgame show continues. Guys, as you get a little bit older, you don't feel like yourself anymore, right? There's a variety of reasons for that. Do you get regular checkups? Are you eating well enough? Do you exercise? Do you not know what it is that could be causing that that kind of creeps up on you out of nowhere from time to time? Well, if you're not feeling like yourself and you're wondering why, don't wait for it to change or go away. Instead, set up a consultation with Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. You'll get a one-on-one consultation. They'll get to the root of the issue and get you back to feeling like you used to and like you want to. No such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment at the Men's Clinic. Set up that free consultation, 803-875-MENS. And you can learn a lot more about what Dan and his team are doing to help guys at themensclinicsc.com. Conveniently located out in Irmo, but helping people for a long, long time. Dan's a good dude. He's ready to help you. So is his staff. That's the Men's Clinic. Previewing SEC Media Days. That's what we're talking about. College football is ready to take center stage fully coming up next week in Dallas, Texas. We will be there, both the halftime show and this particular program, the postgame show, will be broadcasting live from the Omni downtown. Looking forward to that. Having a lot of our friends in the media stopping by, and we'll get as many others as we can throughout the course of the day. It's always very fluid, but always a good time. And I've only been to the Dallas airport. I've never visited Dallas, Texas.
I spent a week in Frisco, Texas.
That's
we had
right.
to drive through Dallas.
Yeah, that's like what, like 30 miles north, maybe, if that far.
Had a hotel in Plano, so it was about maybe a 15-minute drive to the arena. Covered the Conference USA basketball tournament in 2017.
Help me out. Am I not? Does FC Dallas play in Frisco?
I think they might.
I think they do.
That's where Mini Jerry World is, the Cowboys training camp and practice facility. And that's where that tournament was.
The Star.
Was that the Star? The Star is really neat.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what
really neat.
That's what David Tepper wanted to rival in Rock Hill, and then he decided not to.
You mean, he threw maybe a little bit of a fit and decided not to?
Yeah.
Took his ball and went home.
A little bit.
Could have been cool.
How's he doing?
I'm sure he is totally calm, very measured, very chill, and does not overreact to anything these days.
Good. I don't want to talk about him.
Or his really good football team.
What a lie. Dude, I was looking. I only saw part of it, but I think it was on The Athletic, or I don't know. They were putting together like an all NFC South team
going into the season.
And there were like at least the first 10 dudes that were on it, and the Falcons, Bucks, and Saints were all represented. And I was like, yeah. In the top 10 players, not one
No.
Panther.
Stunned.
I mean, I'm sorry, Panther fans. I do, like I say, most importantly to me as a Panther fan is my dear Aunt Judy, who lives in Charlotte, grew up in Gaffney. She's a big Gamecock fan and a big Panther fan. And
the NFL has been agonizing to her. I can sympathize with that. I get
tough.
it. Not fun.
Our good friend Chris Clark is a big Panthers fan. That's Chris's fault.
I hate it for him.
Yeah, man.
Even though, as a Saints fan, really, I don't lose.
No, you shouldn't.
I don't lose much sleep.
You shouldn't.
For them to be competent.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't really have a second favorite NFL team. I'm not really that. So I want the so-called local team to do okay. But
I'd like for people to care.
Again, a lot of people got hacked off at me when my Broncos beat them in the Super Bowl. I was like, sorry. Been a Bronco fan since Jimmy Carter was president, man. Not stopping now.
Which is several decades, or a decade or so maybe before.
Nearly 20 years before the Panthers were even the twinkle in the eye of Paul Tagliabue and Jerry Richardson. I was a Denver Bronco fan. So I'm not even, I have less than zero apologies for how I feel about that. Anyway, so what Elijah and I are doing this week is we're going to talk about each of the 4 schools that have their rotation next week, and we're going to go in order. So a week from today, it's Carolina, LSU, Ole Miss, and Vandy. Now, today we won't talk a lot of Carolina football, only because we're going to talk plenty of Carolina football. But I will tell you real quick, my question for Carolina, and what I think a lot of people will discuss next week, is line play. If South Carolina's line play could just get itself into the middle of the conference, I think you can win 2 or 3 more football games. And if you win 3 more football games than you did last year, you get to where I think you should expect to be most seasons, and that's at 8 wins. Now, again, not be satisfied with it. I always have to try to re-explain myself with this. I think that the floor should be set at 8 for Carolina football. You need to set a floor that's, pretty realistic. You're not going to always hit it. But I don't want to set the floor at 6 or 7. You've seen enough evidence recently here to know that you can do better than that. But that's beside the point right now.
I think we have just different definitions of floor.
Yeah. Look, and right now, maybe, if you got to 7, but if you start celebrating 7, I don't like that. But that, again, that's a topic for another day. But can the line play improve? Yeah, you did some deep dive with Phil Steele's numbers before I left, and we went on vacation last week. At least, I was gone for the whole time. You were gone for half the week. And the returning production is in the bottom third, right? Basically
for the defensive line.
Yeah, for D-line.
For the defensive line, technically the production and grades were in the bottom third of the league of who's returning.
And so that just again elevate that into just the middle, 7, 8, 9 instead of 12 or 13.
Which, at the end of the year, if you just took the end of the year grades for the last 4 weeks of the season, maybe they are in the top 3 or 4, because really those grades encapsulate the entire season. Right. They weren't always really good. They got really good towards the end of the year.
They finally figured some things out, and again, I hate the term simplify, but if that's what you got to do, so be it. I prefer. I think streamline has a more positive connotation to it, to be honest with you. So I just choose that one.
It sounds cooler.
It does. I don't think Ryan cares when he gets back in here this fall. He just wants them to win football games. Ryan Brewer, I mean. But yeah, just finish the year in the middle. And I'm not saying that like, hey, woohoo, the middle, but it's better than the bottom. And then for the offensive line, my biggest question is, have you figured out why so many guys got hurt? I don't think those injuries, if taken individually, can just be looked at as nothing but like flukes and coincidence across the board. What's the common thread? Where is it? I don't know. But that's an inordinate amount of injuries up front. And if you can figure that out, technique, strength, development, all the above, like those are my questions for Carolina. You got to improve your line play. Everything stems. I mean, and no duh, Jay, but I mean, everything stems from that. And the truth of the matter is, it wasn't near good enough last year.
Now, if you have what happened last year happen this year, you're in a world of trouble. Your defense has to be Iowa good to get to 8 wins at that point. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they're that good. I think they are very good. I don't think they are that good. Mm-hmm. If the offensive line has a lot of injuries and you're having to dig to the bottom of the barrel of your depth chart to start guys, and you don't have the same starting group for the first 8 weeks of the year like you did last year, it's going to get ugly because the schedule is tougher overall.
I mean,
nasty.
The only saving graces early, it feels like anyway, are that LSU and Ole Miss come to Columbia.
Yes.
And that you get Kentucky super early. Who does Kentucky open with? Do you have their schedule in front of you by chance? You might have an easier way to get to it than I do in the next. But I'm just curious. I mean, Carolina starts with Old Dominion, and that's good because you get an opportunity to I don't typically like those kinds of games. I know ODU's not FCS.
Southern Miss. Kentucky opens with Southern Miss at home.
Yeah.
A Sun Belt team. One that underachieved mightily last year.
I'm just curious as to, what kind of tune-up. That's probably the wrong term to use, but, who do they get, ahead of time?
It's a tune-up.
But, but I don't have as many questions, to be perfectly honest with you, man, about, like, how Lenoris will perform. Or if Rocket Sanders is going to be back and healthy after a sort of a missed year. Or who's going to catch the ball.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say none of that matters. It obviously does. But you want Lenoris running with the football when Dowell has called for him to run with the football.
Designed runs.
Not because he's running for his life.
Those are different type of runs.
Yeah.
Very, very different type of runs.
And if you can do enough of that to keep a defense honest, well, great. But you're not going to run the football well, and he can't be your primary back, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I like what Attaway's doing. I think they've got a nice core of running backs.
Shoot, Howell as your third running back makes you one of the deeper rooms in the conference. In all honesty.
As long as you're opening up holes and giving them something to run through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, and then this, subsequently the D line, you've got to stop. And again, this is so very simple, but what's so very simple in terms of what you've got to do as a football team didn't happen enough for South Carolina last year. So that's the number one question. How much can your line improve? How much, what have you done to address certain aspects of that, including the injuries up front on the O-line? Like, that's got to change. That's got to change. So that's my number one question for Carolina. We'll get into the LSU stuff, Ole Miss, and an interesting stat about Clark Lee and Vandy from an offensive perspective. All of those things and more coming up. And got a few other things to get to. It's the Postgame Show. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Hope everybody had a safe and happy holiday week wherever you might have been partaking. Yours truly down at the beach. Elijah down in Florida. I have something. I'm a pretty big Jimmy Buffett fan, R.I.P. I don't know that I had ever made, for whatever reasons, maybe I have had one and had forgotten, but I made like in the chorus of the song, I made a Jimmy Buffett cheeseburger in paradise, if you will. Lettuce, tomato, used American cheese, figured, America.
Yeah, it'd be kind of insulting.
And a toasted bun and Heinz 57. No other condiment, just Heinz 57 sauce. And you know what? It was actually quite enjoyable.
Paradise is a good way of describing how it was.
It was just, I love it. I love a cheeseburger. So the only thing it was missing was bacon.
Yeah, but that's not.
But it's not in the song,
so you can't do it.
I didn't. That's why.
You honored the song. You honored America a whole lot better than some American sports figures did.
Lettuce and tomato, Heinz 57, and French fried potatoes. We did have some fries. They were good. I didn't deep fry them, though. We got the kind that you put in the oven.
Sometimes those are just as good.
Dude, deep frying, I love deep fried anything, right? But deep frying at home is just an absolute mess. And the house smells. There's grease everywhere.
Air fryer
There's no point. Well, we were at a beach house rental, so I didn't, and I actually thought about taking our air fryer and said, you know what, I'm not doing that. Last thing I want to do is forget it.
Have a nice air fryer. Forget it. For a place you're renting. So
we just put them in the oven. But all in all, again, good way to celebrate America.
That's right.
So that was good. That's good.
You got to celebrate it well, even though the men's national soccer team did its best to put a stain on this country where the next World Cup is going to be. I knew you were mad because you were tweeting while on vacation.
Yeah, and I don't.
That's how I knew you were mad.
Yeah, if they had won, I wouldn't even hit Twitter. Yeah, man, it was disappointing. I wasn't surprised that they lost to Uruguay because Uruguay's better than.
That's expected.
Yeah,
they're very good. They might win the whole thing now that Brazil's not there. They knocked out Brazil.
What's spectacular about Uruguay is that I think Uruguay's population might be smaller than the population of South Carolina.
I'm gonna fact check that.
And yet they can punch with. I mean, they just eliminated Brazil the other day. I know they had to go to PKs, but hey,
still counts. They still beat them.
They won.
They moved on.
But the Tim Weah red card against Panama just set the whole thing on its ear. But even then, listen. Here's the thing. I like Berhalter. I know why they kept him. But here's the. I know there's a difference in truth and fact. Okay, so I'll say to me, this is the truth. The single best performance in a game under Greg Berhalter is the 0-0 draw with England in the World Cup. Like that, and that's not good, man.
And I got it.
You've beaten Mexico a bunch, but here's the thing. You've now become better than Mexico. This region doesn't do enough for the United States, so getting into this Copa America where you get to play Brazil, potentially, you knew you got to play Uruguay. You had friendlies with Colombia and Brazil, and Colombia kicked your butt.
Pretty embarrassingly.
Argentina, Chile, these are big boys.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to host them. And you didn't even make it to the knockout round. It's just underwhelming. And yeah, as you said, we're going to be hosting the World Cup in 2 summers. And this team is not ready, man. And I think it's fair to expect the United States in 2 years' time to contend for the semifinal. I don't know if they'll make it. But I think it's a fair expectation with what you have talent-wise.
Should have.
But it's pretty obvious that they've just been and here's the thing. The guys let Greg down. They were the ones who, more than any other, who lobbied to have him remain as their head coach, despite the Gio Reyna stuff. They basically all, if you read between the lines, they all told Gio, hey, dude, your parents suck, and you need to shut up and just go play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
But they let him down by not playing hard enough. Now, if you can go get Jurgen Klopp or Mauricio Pochettino, oh, my God.
Oh, well, if you have a chance to do it, you do it. But Uruguay, population 3.449 million.
Yeah. And what's our population here, like 5.5? I mean, so we're
6, I think.
Yeah, so
6.
They're punching way above their weight. More SEC Media Days talk as the postgame show rolls on. Homeowners, right now you may want to move to a new place, but you may say, but I don't really want to move. I've been here a while. We like the school district. It's close to church. I like that grocery store down the street. They got everything I want. I know how to get around. But family's getting a little bigger, and I need to find a way to, have some space. Well, my friends, let me invite you to take a look at what you can do with Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union and their home equity line of credit. Unlock your home's equity that you built and easily access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period. That helps you with your needs and goals over that amount of time. Maybe the kids need another bedroom. Maybe they need a place to go play. Maybe you want to put a pool out back. You need a second bathroom somewhere along the way for the kids so they're not fighting all the time. Check them out online at palmettocitizens.org or any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. My wife and I are customers. We love them. Palmetto Citizens. Achieve your potential. 4 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios, downtown Columbia, alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Yours truly back after a little over a week away. Nice to be back in the capital city. It is nice to be back. It is. I love Litchfield. Don't do anything at Litchfield. Elijah made a great point that I told him. I know he hasn't known me for only about a year, but when I go to the beach, I'm an active vacationer by and large. We like to go, I don't mind doing tours of stuff and whatever, but the beach, man, if I could throw my phone in the ocean, I would.
If you didn't have to go get it back.
Well, yeah, technically I can throw my phone in the ocean, but I tune out. Like, I didn't even know until this morning. I'm serious about this. I didn't even know until this morning that the Braves had acquired Eddie Rosario. They got him on Friday. I just didn't even look.
I missed that. I even missed that. Usually
now he's at Gwinnett at the strippers, as Elijah would tell you, because he pulled a prank on one of his work buddies.
Yes, one of the best April Fool's Day pranks
of
my career.
I think Eddie will be with the big club here soon enough, but I just found that. I was like, oh, when did that happen? So I had to go back in the time machine. It's like, oh, he was given his outright release on Wednesday by the Nats. And the Braves picked him up as soon as they could. So that's good. Anyway, but I just tune out, man. I toes,
the best way to do
toes in the sand, all that kind of stuff that David Lee Roth sang about, and just enjoy the beach.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. That's who I am at the beach. I turn into Mr. Lazy Guy. Otherwise, I'm really not good at sitting around doing nothing. I know some people can do that, and that's fine. Not a judgment. Not a judgment. I just can't do it. I just need something to do,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
You're an active body.
Yeah. Maybe I'm hyper. I don't know, I don't know.
You might be.
Like the Mike Myers character, when he tethers himself to the jungle gym, that one on Saturday Night Live. He tries to get up and run, and he's tied to it.
I haven't seen that, but the mental imagery is pretty funny.
Maybe that's me. I don't know. But anyway, nice to be back. We'll get into more Media Day stuff here in just a little bit. So before I left, Elijah and I were talking, and many of you chimed in as well. We're getting Elijah to watch as many 70s and 80s comedies as we can. And then there will be others. And we had The Godfather. So he watched Godfather and Godfather Part 2. But before I left, I loaned Elijah my DVDs of Fletch, Spinal Tap, and then the entire Mel Brooks comedy collection. I have it in one box set that was given to me as a gift about, 10, 12 years ago. Now, I know you went on vacation as well for a little bit, so you haven't had tons of time. But you did watch.
This is Spinal Tap.
Okay.
I'd get to watch that one.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious, before I ask you anything about Spinal Tap, have you seen any of the other, I say more recent, and they're old now too, mockumentaries, Best in Show, Mighty Wind? Have you seen any of those?
Okay. It's really the first of that genre.
Yeah, because it was
before 1995.
Yeah, and it was the first.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob Reiner did that one, and the guys Harry Shearer and Michael McKean and Christopher Guest were truly the musicians. They wrote the music, they played the instruments. Like, there's no overdub. Like, they were the band, kind of like the Blues Brothers, right? Like Aykroyd and Belushi were the singers at least, and did all the dancing. And that was their voices. Now they got that amazing Saturday Night Live band to back them, but they were Spinal Tap.
Mm-hmm.
All right, overall,
I give it a 7.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. I love the format. I love the sense of humor. A lot of it is very British and very dry, very dialogue based, some of it. But there are some good,
which is great because they're all
gags.
Americans. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, which it just pulled off, And there are some good laugh out loud scenes, where the guy guitarist gets stuck in. They have like those pods or whatever. They all come out of it, and one guy doesn't. That was pretty funny. That was good. But I love, like, Rob Reiner's so funny in that, as the director of this mockumentary, that the amplifier scene where Turn it to 11.
Well, see, turn it to 11 has become almost part of the American vernacular, and a lot of people don't even know why. But that's why.
You just need a little extra kick.
That's the going to 11 is from Spinal Tap.
But it was good. It was pretty funny.
The airport metal detector. That's great. Getting
the cucumber wrapped, in aluminum foil.
Getting lost in the basement of the arena in Cleveland. Like, hello, Cleveland. And they go back around because the guy gave them directions, and they see him again. Dude, I love that movie.
Good.
And here's the thing. I would encourage you at some point soon. Like you keep my copy for a little while, not forever, because I'll probably want to watch it again at some point now that I'm talking about it. But watch it again, just because there will be so many things that you didn't see or hear or put together. Because there's so many visual, only just like straight visual things, like like the sign at the amusement park, like that has like the Spinal Tap and like the like whatever else is. I forget what the other event now. Things like that, like kind of like our Bon Jovi joke at Bon Secours Wellness Arena, like water aerobics. Bon
Bingo
Jovi.
Is that Saturday?
Right. It's like
Bon Jovi on Sunday.
It's like that. It's so great, man. I love that movie so much.
The best comedies do require a rewatch.
Yeah,
because sometimes the jokes are really subtle.
There's so many there, and there are so many subtle jokes.
And that's one too where like the dialogue has a lot of subtle punches there that are really good.
But I would say watch Mighty Wind, watch Best in Show when you get a chance to, because Christopher Guest. Now they helped write that, but he and others did those as a big ensemble cast back in, I guess 90s and early 2000s. Really, really funny. Just so well done. So, but Spinal Tap, man, like Fran Drescher's character, Paul Schaefer's character, all those things, just the scene in the dressing room with the sandwiches.
He was just so confused how to eat the food on there.
And he's, Nigel, he's so dumb. He's so stupid, We're
showing off the guitars, and he's like, "Don't touch, don't even look at it."
David, Michael McKean's character, the lead singer, he's actually pretty clever, right? But oh man, good stuff. Well, glad you got to see that one. That's good. Do you have an idea as which one is next?
I think Fletch is going to be next. I've seen a lot of the Mel Brooks ones, so the Mel Brooks classics, but that set that you gave me had some deep cuts that I am not familiar with.
Right.
Like Blazing Saddles, I've seen.
Sure.
Spaceballs, I've seen many times. Sure. Hilarious movie.
I love it.
Still quoting I quote that one semi-regularly.
Oh, I know other movies have done it. I don't know if it was the first one or not, but That's Going to Leave a Mark is something I say all the time with John Candy when he gets up out of the seat and he doesn't realize his seatbelt is still fastened. Oh, that's going to leave a mark.
Or he introduces himself as his name's Bartholomew, and he goes by Barf, and he's like, "What's your name?" Barf. Oh, please, not in the ship.
Right.
Classic.
That's a good one. But the Producers is great. Silent movie.
I've heard The Producers is really good.
The Producers.
That's one that I've recommended to me before.
They made a musical of that, not too long ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick, and kind of brought it back. But the absurdity of that script is so Mel Brooks and so brilliant. Yeah. Those of you who have seen The Producers, whether you've seen it on stage or the Mel Brooks film, know what I'm talking about. That's probably his most underappreciated comedy because
I get note of that.
Look, I'm not gonna. There's nothing political about what I'm getting ready to say here, okay? But there are people that get uncomfortable when you use Hitler as a basis for comedy,
as a joke prop.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't always go over well. It maybe went over in a different generation a little better because of, those who fought in the war and such. But now that we've had a generation or two that have passed, but again,
I can dig it. I can dig it.
Pretty funny.
My joke arsenal runs pretty deep.
And then Hitler's not in the movie. I just want to say that too. They don't have a character.
Well, yeah, he has long passed. Yeah, he's long passed. I'm sure he was not available if they even wanted to invite him.
Hitler.
Yeah.
But it's Oh, man, it's so funny. It's so good. All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad you enjoyed Spinal Tap. Again, watch Spinal Tap again. Watch it again. Pick up on some things, and I think the appreciation will only grow. I've probably seen Spinal. I don't even know, dude. Some movies like that, I just, I don't know. Dozens. I don't know. I can't quote it like I can with some movies. I can quote a lot of it, though. It's raga. You're off key. Anyway.
That's good. 7 out of 10. I will start rating these.
That's good. That's good.
7 out of 10. It's solid.
Josh Pate of CBS Sports has his twice weekly podcast. I think it goes 3 days a week here pretty soon as the season gets near. Late Kick Josh had one last night. I saw it this morning. Today he put out his top 15 programs. Now, and again, programs. This is not a ranking of current teams going into 2024. He's very explicit about what he uses, like with your results over the last few years and how that projects.
Sustainability.
How your recruiting is going, what your resources and facilities are like, and how that is continuing to support you. I'll go from 15 to 1. I can do this real quick here. Number 15. And he says this, like, over the next 3 years, this is what he sees as the top 15 programs in the country based on those factors. Number 15, Penn State. Number 14, Clemson. Said he had a real tough time with Clemson. But that he said 14. He thought
projectability thing could be the hang up.
Number 13, Miami Hurricanes. Number 12, Tennessee. Number 11, LSU. Thought they might be a little higher.
Outside the top 10 feels interesting.
Well, and I might have switched.
Trying to think of what the hang up is.
I now the only one I have a beef with, and he even said I'm going to get a lot of grief for this one. Number 10, Texas A&M.
Ooh.
He says he's looking at what they have in terms of recruiting and resources. Understands fully, he said, that their results are not there. But he said, I'm looking at what Mike Elko did at Duke and how he's going to translate that player development and cohesion into Texas A&M, which is, in so many words, something that Jimbo could not do. So... But I was like, no way, dude. That's a 4-loss program every year.
He's sticking his neck out a little bit for that,
and
especially to put them above LSU,
he admitted
who has won a national title in the last 5 years.
To Josh's credit, he said, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this one, but again, this is how he's calling it, so that's fine. Number 9, Michigan. Number 8, Oklahoma. Number 7, Notre Dame. And he said, hey, they've had like 3 9-win seasons in a row, and they're recruiting very well.
They played to their preseason projection. Yeah. People like to cry and moan about how they're overrated every year, but if you go back and look, they played near their projection every single
And they need another one of those. They just need to get, one of those close losses needs to turn into a win, and Notre Dame's in the playoff.
Hey, they get a complete defensive line and have 11 men on the field in the last play against Ohio State. They probably win that one.
Yeah.
There's a good chance they stop them.
Number 6.
That was dumb.
Florida State. Number 5, Texas. Number 4, Oregon.
Yeah. They probably have the best coach in college football right now.
He says Oregon. He said everything about Oregon screams Southeastern Conference or Big Ten, and now they are Big Ten. He's like, that, without question, they're the best program on the West Coast.
And Phil Knight is going to funnel money until he is no longer with us.
Well, then, Phil Jr. or whoever.
He wants to see Oregon win a championship really bad.
Number 3, Ohio State.
At 3?
Yeah.
Intriguing.
I might have put them one spot ahead at number 2, where Alabama currently resides, according to Josh Pate.
Fair.
And he says the number 1 program looking forward for the next 3 years in college football. And y'all are like, where are they? Well, there they are. It's the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah. I would say that's a pretty easy one.
So,
because of how they dominate recruiting. Still have a ton of resources. They transfer portal well.
No Big 12 program in the top 15.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Even though I think I would probably slide Kansas State in there somewhere, or try to.
Yeah, maybe they're 16 to 20 somewhere.
Utah maybe.
Get back into some Media Days discussion. We're just a week away. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
One program that I enjoy and that has helped me out immensely. No, it is not any SEC football program or a Big Ten football program. It's my friends at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. Look, had a weight loss goal that I wanted to achieve, and with the help of specific dieting, which is conducive to my schedule, some interesting secrets on when and what to eat, as well as the motivation to keep going with it, because everybody's weight loss journey is a little different. Mine was a lot different than others, but the process worked. And Paul Grant and Shaylin over at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss did a fantastic job getting me to get back to a comfortable weight once again and to help sustain it as well. If you're interested in learning the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day and starting your own success story like myself, give my friends a call, 803-824-4210, or go to ColumbiaSecretForWeightLoss.com. Results may vary.
Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you on this Monday afternoon, 803-404-6100. You want to chime in on your biggest questions for the teams at SEC Media Days? That's what we're going to be doing this week. By the way, on that note, tomorrow on the program, our buddy Brad Crawford at 24/7 Sports will join us in the 3 o'clock hour. Looking forward to talking with Brad. He threw out interesting piece today on his website some bold predictions for Carolina football and some conservative predictions for Carolina football. You can check that out at the Big Spur or 24/7 Sports, and Brad will be with us to discuss more of that on tomorrow's program. But next Monday, Carolina part of the rotation along with LSU, Mississippi, and Vanderbilt. The commissioner will also be speaking next Monday. Last hour, we talked a little bit about Carolina and what we want to hear from Greg Sankey. So, and we'll get back into a little bit more on the Gamecocks in the next hour. But for LSU, I mean, you look at what Jaden Daniels did last year, and you think, man, you missed your opportunity. I don't know enough about Garrett Nussmeier other than his dad played in the NFL, and he's from Louisiana.
I didn't even know that. You have a very small sample size on Nussmeier.
And so, how good is he? How good is the team overall? And one of the questions I have here, Elijah, and it's a rhetorical question, is there any way that you can look at this team and say there's addition by subtraction? They were heavily reliant on Jaden Daniels last year, but it wasn't the offense. They couldn't stop enough people. That was their problem. Mm-hmm. They had a bad defense. But we're at a point now, I know for me personally, where I was thinking, okay, they're national title contenders, but I don't know if they are.
No. I would not consider them national title contenders. I would not consider them cream of the crop playoff contenders. Is there a pathway to sneak in? Sure. But, I mean, if you're making me field my playoff field right now, I don't have them within 4 or 5 spots.
Are they, at best, top, like maybe 5th in the SEC at best?
I mean, if that defense gets to better than what it was last year, and look, if you look at it from just a rushing standpoint, right, because that was my biggest concern is the run defense. Yeah. They got a lot coming back in the secondary. Yeah. So if they improve with guys who have played a lot of college football, then maybe you can avoid getting thrown on. But one of the worst things you can have in the SEC is a bad run defense because everybody can run the ball to a degree, right? And if somebody's running all over you with as many quarterbacks in this league that don't have experience, Brock Vandagriff, Taylor Green, Garrett Nussmeier, Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma, here at South Carolina with Lenora Sellers, if you don't make them beat you, teams are going to score a ton of points on you. And last year, LSU, if you would have included Texas and Oklahoma in the league, they've been 14th in defensive yards per carry. Yeah. It was atrocious. You know what group that they had that was decimated the most by departures? The defensive line unit. They didn't have many good defensive players. The ones they did have that did become NFL draft picks aren't walking through that door. And that made up of like 3 or 4 of the starting defensive linemen. So not only are they inexperienced, the ones who are coming back were bad. So if they can't get that fixed, there's a good chance they go into the Ole Miss game on October 12th, 3-2, because South Carolina can trip them up here if Lenora Sellers doesn't have to throw the ball 40 times, and Rocket Sanders can run the ball really well, and they can pick up 6 yards a carry. There's a really good chance they ain't leaving Willie B alive. And there's a really good chance that Southern Cal in the first game of the year in Las Vegas runs the ball all over them as well, because even though they have a ton of question marks, Lincoln Riley is nothing if not a good offensive coach and will find a way to exploit your weakness. He's not afraid to run the ball 30 times with one running back if he has to. If LSU's run defense is as bad as it was last year, given how inexperienced they are at that position group, buddy, there's a good chance they're 3-2 going into Ole Miss. And if that's the case, you're looking at 7-5, 8-4 at best.
Yeah, it's weird because, again, I thought by year 3 that he would have a national title contender. And that's like I say, you wasted wasted is maybe too strong. Well,
hey, you wasted it. Yeah. You wasted one of the best seasons in the history of the SEC from an individual quarterback standpoint.
And again, you didn't have to have an elite defense. You just needed it to be, heck, an average defense probably gets it done for you.
Oh yeah,
with the way they could score.
Don't be 14th. Don't be 14th in the conference, and rush yards per carry defensively, and you get into like the top 10.
Yeah, be 8th.
Because you can outscore some of these teams. Like, the offense, I think, will be fine. I love Kyron Lacey at receiver. Their running backs aren't very experienced, but they're blue-chip caliber guys. They have a transfer wide receiver who is coming in, who was a 1,000-yard receiver last year with C.J. Daniels. I mean, they have still some pretty good weapons and an offensive line who specializes in run blocking. A lot of those guys are really good run blockers with how they're graded. The offense will score some points, but they're not going to be as explosive as last year, and the only reason they were able to salvage a really good record last year was because the offense was historically good, because they were putting up about 50 points a game. This one will still put up, 35 to 40, but it's not going to be anywhere near the same as it was last year, which means that could be the difference between going 8-4 and 6-6.
There's a lot on any quarterback over there now, too. I mean, you've had two of the last, 5 or 6 Heisman winners, and last year, again, a very special season. I don't know. LSU is always going to be loaded. And I feel, and look, they forgive me, the coordinator they hired from Mizzou, who's now the what?
Oh, that's Blake Baker.
Baker, thank you. The
$2 million man.
Yeah, almost 2.5, right,
Investing
or whatever
a
it
lot.
is. Hey, buddy, you better fix it quick. And as you mentioned, not just fix it quick, fix it immediately, because you start with a high-powered team in Southern California, who, by the way, is kind of like you, LSU. There's a lot to prove there. Immediately. You need to grab attention immediately, and this gives you an excellent opportunity to do so. LSU fans will travel like all get out to Vegas. They'll be the home team, even though it's only a few hours from L.A. There'll be more LSU fans at that game than there will be Southern Cal fans.
It'll smell like whiskey and corn dogs. Yeah, definitely. It will. The giant Roomba in Vegas will absolutely have a hint of corn dog smell. Well represented.
I like corn dogs. I haven't had a corn dog in a while. Why is that?
I don't, because I don't like them.
No?
Not a corn dog guy.
No?
At all.
Yeah, I like corn dogs.
Not a huge fan. And you know what? Don't even like the smell of them, too. I've always kind of been repulsed by corn dogs.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Just never liked it. Yeah.
Well,
I like a lot of food. I can put away food if I really put my mind to it. Corn dogs, not one of those.
They should just take some gumbo out there. You can get a corn dog anywhere.
Oh, exactly. Especially in Vegas. You kidding me?
Yeah.
They have stands for that. Just chilling all up and down the strip.
You mentioned it, man. I mean, you really could. You could be in a world of hurt pretty early. I don't think they will be, though. Now, again, is it going to surprise anybody if they're really good? No. They're LSU.
Yeah. Fair.
But I don't know that I have a question per se for a guy like Brian Kelly, because the one thing that needed addressing, he addressed quickly, and the school gave him the resources to do so in terms of getting a better coach on that side of the ball. But, Texas can move the football. Kalen DeBoer and Alabama are going to move the football.
Oh, they certainly are. The offense is on this list, man, can move the football. Ole Miss will move the football.
Yeah.
At will. Texas A&M, I think, with Weigman, will move the football pretty well. At Florida, we don't know what they are defensively, but Mertz had a solid year last year. They added some weapons. They can move the football, and you got to go at Florida. And who knows what Oklahoma is, but their ceiling is still a 35 to 40 point per game offense.
And, of course, I go to this LSU website, and it has the 2023 schedule instead of the 2024. The 2023 doesn't help me.
That doesn't at all.
Yeah.
Anyone can look that
I want to come back and look at their schedule on the other side and see what that turns into. We'll get into some thoughts on Mississippi, who also will visit Williams-Brice Stadium. And they'll be part of the rotation on Monday. Your thoughts on these schools, what you want to hear most from those coaches at Media Days. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Football season is nearly here, y'all. Finding the best way to watch the big game is easy when you're not there. That's by calling my good friends at Integrated Media. There is no one better in the Midlands at installing the home theater system of your dreams. And if you've been putting it off, or you've been saying, Jay, it's really expensive. I can't. No, it's not. Call them up and see what they can do for you. I mean, listen, the equipment is what you pay anywhere, right? And then get it done once with installation that is expert. You don't have to, don't let your brother-in-law do it or the kid down the street, because then you just got to call an expert to come back and fix it. Don't do that. One time. Integrated Media makes it happen, and they'll stay with you 24/7 with support if anything ever does go wrong. But chances are pretty good that it won't. One room, whole house, outdoors, Wi-Fi that works everywhere all season long and beyond. 803-948-8327. Integrated Media.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon will start in Richland County. An accident on US 378 at Pineview Road and Hallbrook Drive is causing some issues. We also have one on Shop Road at Atlas Road, one on Main Street near College Street, one on Hardscrabble Road at Clemson Road, and in Lexington County, we have one on Dooley Road at Two Notch Road, all of those causing some mild traffic backup. We do have an incident that is cleared over in West Columbia. That's on 26 West between Airport Boulevard, exit 113, and Augusta Road, exit 111.
Talking some of the biggest things we want to learn at SEC Media Days, which starts in 1 week's time. And just remind you that the halftime show and the postgame show will be broadcasting live all 4 days from the Omni in downtown Dallas, Texas. Looking forward to that. We'll be leaving out on Sunday night, getting there in time to get rolling on Monday. I don't know. I haven't looked. I know the schedule is out. I haven't seen the times, like when the commissioner talks. He's usually going first around.
He's hitting leadoff?
Yeah.
I do have the email in front of me that has the entire packet. I can look at the schedule right here. Pull that up.
Well, you pull that up, and I'll give you, while you're doing that, we were just talking about LSU, who is part of the rotation on Monday. What we're doing, by the way, for those of you just tuned in, hi, thank you for being with us, Jay and Elijah.
I'm Elijah.
We're going to go day by day all week long here with the 4 schools that are participating. And kind of just ask, again, Elijah, like I said to you, addition by subtraction, is not being reliant on Jaden Daniels something that can benefit LSU. They've got some pieces, but what's your, one of the things that, again, Elijah and I said to each other is we'll have questions for these teams, but we won't give them to each other so that we can converse more openly. What's your number one LSU question / concern?
It's definitely that defensive line. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, look, with how bad they were last year, you think about how bad they were, but they still had NFL talent. Like Mason Smith was a second-round pick for the Jags. There are a couple of guys that went later on. The Jefferson kid went to the Giants, I believe, in the 6th round. They had 3 guys on that defensive line get drafted despite being turnstiles on the defensive line. So what you got coming back, there's some talent because a lot of these guys were considered highly touted high school players, but they still haven't figured out how to use Harold Perkins. And I think that's another one. My secondary one is, how do you use Harold Perkins? The guy is one of the more gifted defensive players in all of college football. But last year they experimented a lot with him, putting him on the edge, making him just a middle linebacker. He's kind of a tweener, and that's how the NFL is going to look at him. And they've tried to experiment ways to use him, and it failed in a humiliating fashion. But the amount of points they gave up. This is a defense that, was giving up over 6 yards a play last year. It's horrific. And when you look at the quarterbacks on the schedule, they play the best quarterbacks on their schedule starting October 12th with Ole Miss and Jackson Dart. If you're 3-2 going into that stretch, you're in big, big trouble. You will be fighting to get to 7-5. But if you get into that 5-0, and they'll play Southern Cal and Vegas, Nicholls State, South Carolina here at Willie B, hosting UCLA in South Alabama. Now, while I like what Lenora Sellers can be, there's still a question mark there, but you want to make Sellers beat you. For Southern Cal, they have some good running backs, some good receivers, but we don't know what Miller Moss is or the transfer from UNLV. You got to make that quarterback beat you. Prove that they can beat you in that neutral site. If they just run the ball over you and you don't stop them, and you end up dropping 2 games that you should win on paper, life is going to get really hard when you have to host Ole Miss, who might have one of the best offenses in the country, and have to travel to Texas A&M, who will throw the ball pretty well and has some talent on the perimeter, and when you have to host Alabama, and when you have to play Oklahoma at the end of the season. You do have some quarterbacks on this schedule that can light you up, even if you do stop the run. But the difference between being 7-5, 8-4, and being really disappointing and being 10-2 and contending for a playoff spot is how well do you stop the run. If that run defense doesn't get any better and doesn't improve from last year, and Blake Baker can't work his magic immediately, there is a high possibility that 7-5 and 8-4 is a reality for LSU.
Fair to say that this fan base at LSU expects them to be 5-0 in September?
Yes. I think the fan base will expect it.
Yeah.
I think there is a really, really good chance that they go into October 3-2 because of that run defense. And look, one thing we know about the South Carolina team is the strength in terms of the talent on the roster offensively is in that backfield.
South
and
Carolina,
the offensive line's healthy, they can run. I can see them running all over LSU.
When you look, listen, and again, we'll talk more about it, but here's the first of many opportunities. And there's that word, opportunity. That Shane will have to be selling that all week because, at worst, LSU is going to be 1-1.
Yeah, at worst. I don't think Nicholls.
No, Nicholls isn't going to beat him.
Would be fun though.
Yeah. But there's your chance. All right, boys, because South Carolina hasn't beaten a ranked team since they beat Clemson.
Yeah, that's true because they didn't beat any last year.
So it's been a long time, and LSU will be ranked. Now, if they've lost to Southern Cal, I suppose there's an outside shot. But regardless, yeah, there's your chance. There's your not shock the world moment. I don't think beating LSU in Columbia on a day game in September is a shock the world type situation for South Carolina. But you certainly will be the underdog in that game.
You can prove you're a good football team.
Yeah.
You can show that you're not going to be a pushover.
And what will you, South Carolina, have done the week prior? Because you and I have talked about that one a bunch. That, there's a whole bunch of big games, but it's weird to have what you would call a pivotal game in week 2 and your conference opener as pivotal. But it is. The winner of the Carolina-Kentucky game is going to feel great and should be 2-0. And the loser is going to go.
The schedule looks worse than what it actually is.
So if you, South Carolina, have gone to Lexington and pulled it off, and you've got the chance to go 3-0, and if not shock the world, what's a good word? Can I at least say stun the world?
Impress the world?
Is that better than shock? Is that not quite as heavy as shock?
Intrigue the world?
Yeah, I could see it. They come back around to LSU. By the way, interesting that they have Southern Cal and UCLA in the same month, in the same season.
Yeah, I didn't know LSU joined the Big Ten.
Right.
2 traditional Big Ten powers.
But like we said earlier, too, for when it comes to LSU, that Southern Cal game, man, that Southern Cal team is in a very similar boat to LSU.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for you to put up.
With worse defensive struggles.
Yeah.
There's kind of LSU on steroids.
I mean, do we have an over/under on that game yet? I mean,
if it's under 70, it's a shame.
It is 62.5.
Wow, shame.
I'll take the over.
Yeah, I will happily take the over, even with 2 quarterbacks that have like a combined 3 career starts.
I don't know. It's just I thought when he was hired that this season would be the one where Brian Kelly had built had retooled that program in his image and would have them ready to go toe-to-toe every week with anybody in college football. And
at least got him in position to be in a playoff.
Yeah, and I don't think that's where they are as we speak. But it might not take much for them to get there.
No.
And conversely, if they beat Southern California, and they will beat Nichols, and they do come to Columbia and win, which they will be favored to do, then I really like their opportunity, as you say, to be undefeated going to Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which would make a mammoth game. Actually, they'll get Ole Miss at home.
At home, my bad. I just see that too.
Which is huge.
Yeah. And again, we'll talk about Mississippi in just a second. I've got some. Well, I've already made some of my feelings known about them, so we'll do that on the other side of the break. But your questions on these teams, 803-404-6100. Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line if you'd like to weigh in on what you want to hear from these coaches or what your biggest concern is on these teams. And we'll talk about Vandy coming up as part of the drive around the SEC, get into a few thoughts on the Gamecocks, too. You're listening to the Postgame Show. 12 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. It's the Postgame Show on the game, talking SEC Media Days, which get underway in 1 week's time in Dallas, Texas. The Omni Hotel. We'll be there all week long. The halftime show. Terry's going. I'm going. Elijah's going. We'll chase down as much as we can.
We'll be active.
I'm going to go to the original Neiman Marcus, and I'm going to, buy my wife, the cheapest T-shirt I can find so that I can say I finally got my wife something at Neiman Marcus.
I love the idea. Yeah, the cheapest thing you can find.
Yeah, I don't know what that at Neiman Marcus a T-shirt is probably like $100.
I was gonna say you're cracking triple digits on that one, but it is.
You think they'll let me in?
Neiman Marcus.
I mean, anybody can technically go, but
they might let you in. They might not let me.
Do they look at you funny in stores like that? Like you don't belong here.
When I walk in there with slides on, yeah, absolutely. My hair down, slides on, shirt half buttoned. Yeah, definitely.
Maybe I should get a bunch of knockoff designer clothing before I go. But then the discerning eyes of the staffers at Neiman Marcus probably go, those are all fakes.
They're like, he's going to come in here and steal something.
That guy's a poser. Oh, yeah, that's true. Or worse.
Yeah.
I do. I feel like I should just go to the original Neiman Marcus just to say I've been, because I've never been to Dallas. So I just, I want to do all kinds of Dallas stuff.
There's a lot of fun Dallas stuff.
Yeah, it's
Major League Baseball All-Star Game's going to be there.
Yeah, again, we looked into some tickets for that already, and
got to break in. Yeah, that's not an option. We're breaking in.
Not doing that. Not doing that.
They can't get all of us at once. We might have to recruit some other people to rush the game.
Like my 19-year-old really wants to go to the All-Star game next summer in Atlanta.
Next to impossible. Even in Atlanta.
Yeah, and it's just, because again, the tickets don't really ever go on sale to just people. I mean,
normal people.
Season ticket holders get first crack, and certainly, your sponsors and whatnot, and then baseball controls that game. So, Carl Ravitch and all his family get to get good seats.
They're on the field. Yeah.
But, I don't know. There's good and bad things in Dallas. Like, the whole JFK thing is right around the corner from our hotel.
Some morbid history, but
it's history, right?
It is history.
I do want to see some of the sports things that are there, but they're so spread out.
Pigs.
I'd love to go over to the cattle auction place or whatever over in Fort Worth, but apparently that's like an hour away, and I don't have time for that.
Nah, don't.
I want to see South Fork, where JR lived. I don't know how far away that really is. Like that's probably not in, quote, Dallas.
Definitely not within walking distance.
We'll get Langston to take us
for a while. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Langston has a vehicle.
He does. So that'll be a help. But anyway, we'll be in Dallas next week. Looking forward to that and bringing you full live coverage. Thanks to all our fine sponsors, including, Forest Lake Travel, who I have, whether anybody else here has allowed me to do it or not, I've nicknamed, the official travel provider of 107.5 The Game.
That's right. They've already sent me to Cleveland.
That's right. No, they sent.
It was fun.
Daisy sent us a few places through the years. So, Daisy Miller, Forest Lake Travel. Check them out.
Number one.
ForestLakeTravel.com. My question for Ole Miss, and I suppose it's not a question you could ask Lane Kiffin next Monday, but can you handle the pressure? You're now being talked about as a team that is right there with Alabama, right there with the newcomers, at Texas and Oklahoma. In fact, those might be the top three, and then Ole Miss right there with them.
Mm-hmm. You can realistically say it's playoff or bust.
Georgia too, obviously, but in terms of being out that way, yeah. And like I said, the last time there was this much, and you're going to hear this refrain from me a bunch, but the last time there was this much hype around Ole Miss, they crumbled. That was 15 years ago. It started here in Columbia with a Thursday night loss. I just, what if they came to Columbia and lost again? And again, another excellent opportunity for Shane Beamer's ball club in September. You got two really massive home opportunities. If you could split them, if you're Carolina, but for Ole Miss, there's a whole bunch of people who think they're going to be like, what, 8-0 before they have their first massive test?
Yeah, I mean, they start off with Furman. They have Middle Tennessee. Don't sleep. At Wake Forest, which is their first road game. But they should absolutely crush Wake Forest. Georgia Southern at home, and then you have Kentucky at home, which will be a pretty good test. I think Kentucky's really good. And then you go at South Carolina, and then at LSU. I expect them to win all of those games.
What's your biggest question?
My biggest question is offensive line cohesion. Like, defense can be a question mark, but they do get 10 starters back on that defensive line, linebacker, secondary. But offensive line, with all the skill position talent they have the deepest running back room potentially in the conference. They definitely have the deepest wide receiver room in the conference. I'm very high on Jackson Dart. This offensive line, out of the 10 deep, if you look at Phil Steele and his projection of the lineup, 4 of those 10 are transfers. And that's always been the big thing with offensive line units in modern college football. Building units through the transfer portal can be really hit or miss. Yeah. It's very risky. Now, 2 of those guys are from Julius Below and Nate Kalepo, are transfers from the Joe Moore Award-winning Washington team. However, when you look at those 2 individually, they are below average run blockers and decent pass blockers, according to their Pro Football Focus rate, and comparing it to the rest of the SEC. They rate at average or below average. Can the whole be better than the sum of their parts? Because the sum of the parts on that offensive line isn't playoff worthy, but the rest of your team is. If you can get them to just gel early, which might be what those first 3 games are for.
I was going to say,
Tennessee at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
It's going to be crucial that they get in shape before they have to play Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU.
Yeah, the schedule sets up in terms of them playing all the non-cons. And Wake is not an easy out, but they should get it done. Headlines coming up. It's been hot, y'all, but that's nothing new across the Midlands of South Carolina. AAA Heating and Air ready to help you out, not just this time of year, but all year long. Their expert team can make your home an oasis of comfort. And now, Roy and Dana Finley have an amazing offer for customers. Guaranteed financing, no payments or interest in 2024, $1,500 system buyback rebate, 15-year parts and labor warranty. It speaks volumes of the trust they have in their service and in the products that they are putting into your home. They have done work at my house, Bill Gunners, and many others here in the building. But don't just take my word for it. Head to the website, get an instant quote, find out how affordable this is. And remember, no payments or interest for the next 12 months. Call AAAtoday.com is the website. Punch in a few quick bits of info, and they'll give you a quick quote, or you can call them up for anything you need, even a quick service call, 803-677-1500. Tell them Jay Phillips sent you, and stay nice and cool with AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. Got 3 of them here in Richland County. That's on US 378 at Pineview Road and Hallbrook Drive. Number 2 on US 176 and Broad River Road at Bush River Road. And lastly, there's one on Main Street near College Street. Only one to get to in Lexington County so far, and that's on Dooley Road at Two Notch Road. All of those causing some minor traffic backup.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Monday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the Postgame Show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. We'll talk more Gamecock football coming up in a bit, but we did hear earlier from the SEC on everybody's participating characters, if you will, at Media Days next week. We already know, obviously, that the coaches of each of the 16 schools will be speaking, but the conference announcing the player participants today. South Carolina on Monday will be sending Alex Huntley, Luke Doty, and Debo Williams to represent the Gamecocks. So we'll have more on that in just a little bit, along with some of our questions for Carolina at Media Days. That's coming up in just a bit. But again, Boogie and Luke and Debo will be representing the Gamecocks on Monday at the Omni. And just to remind you, we'll be there, the halftime show and the postgame show, broadcasting live all week long from SEC Media Days. The big story in college athletics today, Connecticut and Dan Hurley have agreed to a new contract. And the school was very upfront about this. This is not a contract extension. They basically took the old deal and ripped it up, threw it in the shredder, then into the fire so nobody could see it. And they have signed Dan Hurley to a 6-year deal worth a minimum of $50 million. There are several performance-based incentives included, like winning national championships. Too bad he didn't get that done in the last contract. No, he probably did. The reason that I said that this L.A. Lakers flirtation wasn't all about the money, now I think, and I don't know how you feel, Elijah, or any of you listening. The Lakers offered him a 6-year, $70 million deal. So I just don't think he wanted to coach the Lakers. That's why I didn't ever really believe. Now, again, maybe I'm being like Mr. Naive, and I'm going to allow you to either agree or push back here in just a second. But I didn't ever think this was all about just reworking his contract at Connecticut. Was there some of that? Okay, yeah. But I think that he wanted to see what was up. Now, at the same time, you need to put him in that class with Bill Self and I guess with John Calipari. Mm-hmm. Who now, the more I look at it and read, the more I realize that John Calipari is running an NBA training academy. Good luck with that, Arkansas. So am I being foolish and naive when I say that it wasn't ever solely about just, Connecticut, you better worry. I mean, if he wanted more money,
he could have just asked anyway. He had all the leverage in the world to just ask.
Yeah. And again, he turned down a deal for the same length and $20 million more. So I think he and the family like being in stores, and Connecticut likes him being there, obviously. And this is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And again, this is the base, basically. It's $50 million over the 6 years plus incentives,
which he can definitely reach. He's built a hell of a program there, but I honestly think that he took the call because you'd be stupid not to take the call, even if you have no intention on leaving. No matter how happy you are at the job you're at, no matter how good you're doing at the job you're at, when something that is the pinnacle of your profession calls, it would be foolish not to at least take the call, even if you're 80%, 20% leading towards staying where you're at. Right?
If the Orlando Magic call, you can turn them down.
Yeah, sure. But the Los Angeles Lakers, who already have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and which two guys that they have already won a championship with, you take the call. Because it is an iconic gig, you will be coaching an iconic player, a couple of iconic players. I think Anthony Davis will end up being a Hall of Famer. You already have two Hall of Famers on the team right now.
With the big asterisk. Didn't play all the time. Didn't play.
And, the asterisk just says when he played, which is very true. They don't call him day-to-day Davis for nothing.
I know you like him. To me, he's Hall of Very Good, but I'll give you that.
That's Hall of Fame. He's a lot of All-NBA teams.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's still they give those out even though you don't play a lot of games. Not anymore though.
Oh, I got a hangnail. I can't play, Coach. How long are you gonna be out? A month.
Oh man, yeah, Coach. Somebody's got the under on me with points and rebounds. I gotta take myself out. I have an illness. Oh, sorry, that's Jonte Porter. Different big. Definitely not Hall of Fame. But if you're Danny Hurley.
Jonte Porter's in some real trouble now.
Oh.
See the feds got him?
Felonious trouble, if you will.
He's going to jail.
Yeah, that made our 5 o'clock news headline back on Wednesday.
Yeah, he's going to jail.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a visit. Actually, he's going to prison. We'll make that differentiation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's not going to the lockup.
Yeah, he's going to the big leagues.
Right.
He's going to the bigs, buddy. This ain't the minors. This is the bigs.
Oh, man. Anyway.
Yeah, Danny Hurley, you'd be foolish not to at least take the call and see what's on the other side and give yourself an option for life, even more life-changing money, and to see exactly if you'd be willing to take one of the biggest jobs of your profession. So I think you took it.
Overall, at Connecticut, 141-58. But the last two seasons, 68-11. And in their 12 tournament wins, each of them was a double-digit win. So they have not just won the championships; they have dominated the NCAA tournament.
Haven't sweated it out. Not one game have they had to sweat out in those two tournament runs.
There's a part of me, not about him specifically. I mean, it is, but it's also just a general thing. I'd like to see what he could do. And again, when I talk to people like you who know more about it than I do, and I read some of the things I've read in The Athletic and others about the system that he runs and how it would just be fantastic in the NBA, I just wonder if he hasn't scratched enough of the itch yet at Connecticut. Mm-hmm. Do you want to get into that class of a Coach K? You know, what did Coach K have? 6 titles? 5?
Finished with 5.
Okay. You know, and do you want to get into that realm? Is that what you're looking for? I remember Dan Patrick made a great point about this coaching family. You know, I mean, their dad, Big Bob, and then Bobby was a great player, and he's a good coach, but he was a great player.
Losing it a little bit at Arizona State,
maybe, yeah. You know, and Dan is the was not the great player, but he's now becoming, the great coach. And would you just want to do it, if you will, at all 3 levels? I mean, again, Big Bob Hurley is like a high school legend. He's like, for those of you from South Carolina, he's like John McKissick at Somerville. He's just better than you, and he just keeps doing it because there's a way and it works. And
Rush Probst minus the controversy.
Yeah. Oh God, that guy. I don't even that dude. There's a documentary. You'd be like, is this real?
Oh, there's a 5-part documentary. All episodes 2 hours long.
But would you want to do it at the next level? Now the good news is, if you will, I say good news, but Dan Hurley's in his early 50s, so if he wants to coach Connecticut 5 or 6 more years, you still are going to be at a position where you could go to the NBA. But I don't know. I almost feel like if he was going to do it, he'd have done it. At some point, does Rock and Jimmy Dolan come to you if you're really a Northeast guy? Like, I wouldn't touch the Nets. But if Rock and Jimmy Dolan came to you in a few years and said, I want you to coach the Knicks, might that be the gig that gets you into the NBA and you don't have to uproot the family? And how much of it was the family? I think the answer is a good portion of it.
Yeah, and their happiness, they're content there, man.
That's where they're from. They didn't, they might. LA's a cool place to visit. Probably just maybe didn't want to live there.
It's expensive to live there.
Even for and again,
it's expensive to live in Connecticut.
They'd have paid him another $20 million, man.
They're going to make it worth his while.
So that's why I say for those, this is just designed to get a better deal out of Connecticut. Again, I'm sure there's a sliver of that. How big a sliver, I don't know. But I don't think that was the overriding. I don't think this was a ruse to just pull one over on UConn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. But the new deal was worth it. I'd pay him more than John Calipari makes at Arkansas.
Definitely. And if I'm Danny Hurley's agent, I am looking at the brass at UConn, and I'm saying, look, back-to-back champions, you didn't have to sweat for a second in either of those tournament runs. Oh, and last year we did the whole win the Big East regular season, win the Big East tournament. Dominated that conference, which is a really solid conference from beginning to end, and are just reloading because they have a really good recruiting class coming in right now and some really good transfer players. There's a good chance they can do it again. They can three-peat. There's a really good chance they three-peat.
Oh, boy, if they did.
And John Calipari's been bounced in the first round 2 of the last 3 times he's been in this thing to mid-majors.
Continuing our integrated media headlines of the day, the Atlanta Braves took 2 of 3 this weekend at home from the Philadelphia Phillies. That's the good news. The bad news is the Braves are still 8 back in the National League East.
Can't creep back in if you don't beat the Phils.
No, and
it's going to take 2 games.
The Braves had cut it to 6, and then it went all the way back to 10, and then now to 8. Braves head out to Phoenix tonight to take on the Diamondbacks. Chris Sale going for Atlanta. Again, 11-3 with a 2.71. He was named to the All-Star game for the first time in 6 years. Yilbert Diaz will go for Arizona. He is making his first start of the season.
Wow. This is a good opportunity to tee off on him then.
I would agree. And if you didn't hear, because I didn't, Eddie Rosario, the LCS MVP of a couple of years ago, who was let go by the Braves last year, really they just kind of like they did with Adam Duvall, like they just couldn't afford him. And they went and got Kelnick instead. But Eddie Rosario was released by the Nationals last Wednesday, picked up by the Braves, and immediately assigned to Gwinnett, AAA, where he has already hit a 400-plus foot home run to dead center and a triple. So he can handle the AAA pitching.
Won't be playing for the Strippers very long.
I don't think he'll be at AAA very long either, sir. I would agree with you there. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Greece are into the Olympics. I think the Greeks have not made it since 2008, and certainly for Giannis, his first time along the way. They knocked out Luka and Slovenia. I didn't really know what the final qualifying tournaments looked like, so I didn't see in advance that they were going to play one another. I was hoping they'd both be there with their countries, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I realized that wasn't going to be possible, I was like, oh, that's too bad.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Slovenia's still really good.
Yeah.
It's not just Luka. Like they have a really good team.
Giannis and the Greeks then went on to beat Croatia, who's pretty good as well. So Giannis will be there, man. It'll be it's going to be a good tournament. Listen, I read a piece this morning that we've said before, many of us have talked about for the American men and women. I was reading an article about the men today. There are no options. There's one thing. Otherwise, it's failure. If you don't win, you failed. There's no, hey, they played well. Like mentioning Croatia. Like when Croatia made the final of the World Cup. Like, man, you punched above your weight. Like you made the Final Four last time. That's a big deal at the World Cup. Way to go, Croatia.
They almost won me a lot of money that year.
Like if America were to make it, you'd be like, hey, yeah, America, semifinal World Cup. Like, there you go. That's a step forward. But if America doesn't win the gold medal in basketball, again, for either team, it's failure. Which
certainly
is, it's not a bummer. I get it. I want to go into this thing feeling like there's something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think this one actually might mean more because of the teams that are in it are really good. Like France is not what France used to be. They're all NBA players.
Yeah.
Canada, the last 2 guys for the Canadian team that got released are NBA players.
Yeah. That's a big deal, man.
In the history of that country, have the final 2 guys cut for that roster played in the NBA.
And none of them will be afraid. And we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks when I think the Americans' first game is July 28. But yeah, none of the opponents will be scared of them. And quite honestly, the one thing that concerns me is the hunger level, if you will, for the United States. Some of these dudes have won gold medals. Some of them, like Steph, have never played. Steph turned down the last two Olympics. One was injury, and one he was just like, man, I'm flat worn out. And so he didn't play. So this is his first opportunity in his mid-30s. But the hunger level needs to be there for them. Because one slip up along the way in the wrong time, and but again, if you don't win it, it's failure.
Bad omen. Puerto Rico's in their group. Last time they didn't win gold. Took an L to Puerto Rico.
You can watch those dudes and everything else you like better than ever for our good friends at Integrated Media, 803-948-8327. Again, a great time to get ahead of the football rush by calling Integrated Media today for your home theater dreams, 803-948-8327. More on Media Days. What do we expect from the Gamecocks next week? Talk about it on the other side. Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union been helping their customers for nearly 100 years. My wife and I are members, have been for the last few years now. We love them. And here's the thing. You need your banking services, right? Checking, savings, credit card, car loans, student loans, whatever it might be. Do it for less. You see, Palmetto Citizens is a not-for-profit credit union, so they return earnings in the form of lower rates and fewer fees when you need to borrow money or just do your day-to-day banking. And speaking of borrowing, unlock your home's potential with their home equity line of credit. You'll pay lower closing costs and application fees than with the big banks, and you can access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period to assist you and the family with all your goals and needs. Kids need another bathroom, place to play. You need a place to get away from them for a while as the family grows. Hey, you know what that's like. Apply today at palmettocitizens.org or any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential. 20 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. You are you. We thank you for choosing to be with us this afternoon. Good to be back in Columbia after a little over a week away. Always nice to be at the beach.
Love the beach.
Mentioned earlier that on July 4th, we made burgers and dogs. I mean, we did the traditional kind of thing. But I did make the Jimmy Buffett cheeseburger in paradise, lettuce, tomato, Heinz 57. I did put pickles on it. He says a big kosher pickle. Like he has one on the side, I think, in the song. Like one of those big ones that you get like at a deli. So I don't know if I screwed it up or not.
By putting it on.
By putting just pickle chips on the hamburger, but I did.
Nothing in there says you can't.
But no bacon. Jimmy doesn't talk about onions on there. Which I do typically put onions on my hamburgers.
I am an onion on hamburger guy.
Yeah, me too. But no other condiment, just Heinz 57. It was good, man.
That sounds good. I've never had Heinz 57 on a burger, though.
I don't know that I had either. I mean, that song is 40-something years old, and I've heard it a million times.
Anytime you go to
it's pretty much what inspired us. Like, so I... on the 4th, like my girls tolerate most of what I listen to, and I try not to play anything like, I don't sit there and play like, a fish show from Madison, Wisconsin in like 1998, like out, at the beach, right? So I don't do that to my girls, but I'll put up like a playlist together that we've all added to, and it's very eclectic, right? That'll run, and it's like a 6-hour playlist. So like over the course of a couple of days, you can hear the whole thing, right?
Oh yeah.
So. But on July 4th, the girls said, all right, Dad, can we just like have American music? Which is cool. I was like, sure. It's like we started with a little almonds, and then I put together like a compilation from like 5 Jimmy Buffett live shows and made like one just Jimmy Buffett show. And I don't know why it struck me, but at like 11:30 that morning, listening to Cheeseburger in Paradise, it's like, you know what? Because I had not yet gone to the store down at the beach to get all the stuff to make burgers and dogs. I was like, I'm going to get a bottle of 57, and I'm doing this. And
there you go.
It was great.
Conjured up an idea, something.
Yeah, how many times have I heard that song? I don't even know.
Countless.
Yeah.
Countless.
It's a fine tune.
It's ubiquitous in the summer.
Yeah, it is. But it was good. And you had burgers, dogs, and crab legs.
And crab legs.
Yeah.
The first time on the 4th of July, I was at a barbecue with crab legs, and they were phenomenal.
There you go. Well, that's good. Hope everybody had a good time. Gamecocks will be part of the rotation a week from today at SEC Media Days. Coach Beamer taking the podium at lunchtime. He's, I think, maybe the first or second guy to go. And he'll be joining us at some point, we hope. That's the plan. Anyway.
He'll be the third guy to go. Second, just kidding.
I thought I was, okay.
Yeah, you're right. I read, are we counting Greg Sankey or not?
Well, yeah, I meant coach. But
second coach, third
guy. Yeah, that's what, yeah. And again, we hope to have Shane stop by our Radio Row location before he gets back on the plane. But my question for South Carolina, and again, we will obviously spend hours talking about the Gamecocks over the next month and a half before the season finally begins. But can the line play? Well, not. I should re-ask it. How much will the line play improve? Because can it? Sure, it can improve. It better improve. But one of the things that I do want to ask Coach Beamer next week, and maybe in subsequent opportunities to speak with him in the coming weeks, what have you done to address why so many things seem to happen to your offensive line? How much of it was dumb luck and sports
coincidence
and football, and how much of it was something because there were so many injuries on the offensive line. And to some younger guys, too. Were they just not ready? Were they just getting beat? Was their technique as such that better veteran guys on the other side were just blowing past them and, tweak, there goes that knee. Oh, there goes that ankle. Or, you turn the wrong way and, there goes that shoulder. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of these questions that I have today are somewhat rhetorical, but it just seems to me and to others that we've talked about that I've talked with, that many isn't all complete coincidence. What can you do about it? Because I think everything for Carolina football, for most football teams at any level, Elijah, as you well know, and we all know, revolve around line play. But, South Carolina wins a couple of more games if line play on both sides is average.
That's all it had to be.
Yeah.
Was average. You kept Spencer Rattler from running for his life for a majority of the games. Who knows? I think you could have beaten Texas A&M. You got in a position to beat Texas A&M in that fourth quarter, but you weren't able to sustain the drives, finish the drives well enough because A&M was constantly in your backfield. And the fact that you even scored enough points to make that thing mildly competitive is a testament to how good Spencer Rattler, is as a college quarterback. This year, you got better in terms of the talent you brought in. I think Josiah Thompson is going to play right away and immediately be your starting left tackle.
Oh, yeah.
He was highly coveted coming out of high school, and there's going to be a lot of pressure. There'll be more pressure on him than almost any freshman offensive lineman in the country. I don't know of all the teams that I have looked at so far in the season prep process, I have not come across a single starting offensive line with that type of left tackle responsibility who is going to be that big of a difference between making or breaking an offense, except for him.
Yeah, that's fair, man. And you think back last year to a guy like Proctor who was, at an elite level.
And it took 6-7 weeks before he was able to prove a little bit of something of what he was, because he got mauled for a couple weeks in the season. He struggled mightily at South Florida, a team that didn't play a ton of defense, was able to stall out that offense because both Buckner and Simpson at times were running for their lives.
That to me, again, there's other things certainly that will come up. What kind of faith and trust you have in Lenoris. Luke Doty's going to be talking next week. What's Luke's role on this team? I'm curious to see what that. But I'm not saying it doesn't matter. But what I am saying is it may not have as much importance if what's going on up front isn't allowing things to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Rattler last year. One of the stats we talked about, he was sacked 40 times. Under duress, another 40 to 50 plays easily.
How many plays were simply broken up because timing was thrown off because he didn't have enough time to drop back? And that's regardless of if the play still ended in a completion or not. How many plays were disrupted from the beginning because of that offensive line? It's a high number.
It is. There's no question. So to me, again, what have you done to address the line issues? And with the defensive line, at least, there are veterans. Elijah had the breakdown from Phil Steele, week before last. And there are tons of returning guys. I mean, and Alex Huntley will be talking next week as well. I like the fact that there is veteran depth. It might not be the most talented unit, but where you might not have as much talent, there are ways to make it up in experience. And in game IQ, football IQ, in terms like that. But I will die on that hill this season. If you can get your line play back to the middle of the conference, that's it. You're going to go to a pretty good bowl game. Do better than that? I don't know. We'll see.
You will end up, if you do better than that, you will do what you didn't do at all last year, and that's win a few games that you're not supposed to.
Right.
Because you're only going to be favored in about 4 of your 12 games, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Realistically, you're only going to be favored in about 4, 5, 6 max.
Yeah.
You got to win some games you're not
at least for
win.
Now. Again, depending on how,
that can change.
You find a way early in the season to pull off some of those stunners, like we talked about with LSU in week 3. If you could, again, I think it's probably not going to happen, but if you could find a way to start 3-0, you change a lot of minds. Drive around the SEC. An interesting stat on Vandy, who also goes next Monday. You're listening to the Postgame Show. I've been telling you for years about how much I love integrated media and what they've done at my house. I get people that will ask me, though, sometimes if they don't hear me say that, sometimes they, hey, Jay, do you just talk about those guys? Or do you really, really have them at your house and really mean what you say? Oh, believe me, I mean what I say and then some when it comes to integrated media. And with football season right around the corner, now is a great time to get integrated media into your home. With just one call, they can install the latest in 4K HD technology from Samsung and Sony, including those frame TVs that look amazing when they're not tuned into your favorite game. You couple that with the built-in Dolby surround systems, like you're part of the action. Maybe you want to sit outside and enjoy the fall weather. Hey, they have outdoor systems that look and sound just like the indoor stuff, and the equipment like Samsung Terrace TVs and Sonos outdoor speakers made to be outside 24/7, 365. Call them up at 803-948-8327. Get ready for football and more with integrated media.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this Monday afternoon will start in West Columbia. An accident on I-77 northbound before the Killian Road exit 22, causing some minor traffic backup, as well as one on Main Street near College Street and on US 176 at Broad River Road at Bush River Road. Lastly, we have an accident in Lexington County that just went away, so it doesn't matter because it's cleared. So Lexington County, for the most part, running pretty smoothly when it comes to traffic.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Monday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. And we'll start with a little Georgia football news for you. This one's interesting to me. Today, Georgia picked up a commitment from a young man named Jazair Jackson. He's an offensive lineman, a 3-star. He was part of the Overtime Elite basketball program, won a championship there. He's 6'11", 330 pounds. And you say, well, Jay, are you talking about football or basketball? Football. He's going to play offensive line for Georgia. 6'11", 330. And they can get him in on this year's class. So they had a spot. Don't know how that works, but.
And they get to bring in this behemoth of a human being.
6'11", 330. Now, again, a 3-star at Georgia, a 3-star on the offensive line. I didn't even know they recruited 3-stars, but
it's almost like an academic eligibility requirement. It's you have to, for certain schools to even be accepted, you have to have a certain ACT score. Georgia, you have to at least be a 4-star.
Yeah, but
to get a scholarship.
I suppose at that size, if you can just develop him a little bit. But I mean, he's got basketball moves and skills, man.
So he's good on his feet. Whew. At least I think. I haven't watched him play basketball.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
maybe he is a little bit of a slog up and down the floor. Well, but if he's not, and he actually can be a little nimble.
At 6'11", 330, I'm not saying he's getting up and down the court quickly, but at least he's been.
Usain Bolt.
No. He's not.
But there are some inherent footwork skills that require to play basketball, even at the overtime elite level, that might translate to football pretty well.
Sure. We'll see, but good pickup for Georgia there. We'll come back around to the SEC Media Days theme that we've had throughout most of the program. Again, throughout the course of the week, Elijah and I will be looking at the 4 schools that are participating. So a week from today, it's LSU, Ole Miss, Carolina, and Vandy, and so on and so forth through the rest of the week. And we'll do tomorrow, plus Brad Crawford of 24/7 Sports on tomorrow's program. Vandy is part of the rotation next week, and they're part of South Carolina's schedule as well. Gamecocks go to Nashville. Clark Lee was hired after being a coordinator at Notre Dame to come in and, bring some of that Brian Kelly Notre Dame experience into Vandy, and it's not working. That's unfortunate.
Not a lot works there.
No, and look, they need more players. I get it. This is what's interesting. This is from The Athletic today. Lee has his 3rd offensive coordinator in 4 years, and the program has played multiple quarterbacks in 22 of Lee's 36 games, and there have been 79 portal departures since 2021. He was the guy that was supposed to come in because he knew the Vandy program and bring some sense of purpose, I suppose, back to it. And I know there's a lot of cynics out there, Elijah. Why didn't the SEC just kick Vanderbilt out? Again, that ain't happening. So don't even waste your breath.
It's going to take more than a $50 million check. Yeah, that's the numbers that some people that suggest they do that do it for. And I'm telling you, they're not leaving for $50 million.
No, they're not. I wouldn't. Why should they? And again, you can't kick them out. They didn't do anything wrong. You can't. And look, I know that most of it revolves around football, but not all of it does. Mm-mm. And the Southeastern Conference is quite proud of, say, its basketball programs of late, men's and women's. It's baseball and softball. And on.
Being in Nashville.
Yeah. So again, don't waste your time. Don't waste your own energy. Why don't they just kick Vanderbilt out? I mean, and the fact that some people believe that could happen.
A, false. B, you need Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Sharks need minnows. The ecosystem needs them.
But, can they make a bowl game? That's, I think the over-under win total was 3.5, and I looked at it like, man, they got 4 wins on that schedule. But that doesn't get you a bowl. But if they go to a bowl game, they got to win some conference games. They've got a couple of transfers from good programs coming in at quarterback. One kid's name is Diego Pavia. He was the CUSA Player of the Year last season at New Mexico State. He helped them beat Auburn. They've got a kid from a great program in Utah named Nate Johnson. The difference is for Pavia, his old coach is their new offensive coordinator. So he's got a leg up. It's not going to matter if you can't stop other people or if he doesn't help move the football more effectively. But I think that a lot of the things they wanted out of Clark Lee, honestly, he might have the second hottest seat, which might not be fair. Mm-hmm. I think the hottest seat right now in the conference belongs to Coach Pittman.
Over Napier. Interesting.
Well, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, you're right.
It's 1A, 1B.
I sometimes have
They're
to.
in that same group.
You know what? I have to go back and remind myself that Florida has like I saw it today. The FanDuel sportsbook win total Florida over under 4.5.
That's disgusting.
Now I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'll take the over on that. I think they'll be better than people think.
Dude, they got players. They got players. You need to play. But for Clark Lee, all right, let's call Clark Lee third. But, you would think that there'd be more patience, and I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm dead wrong. Maybe the staff or the brass at Vandy is perfectly fine with him doing whatever he's doing. And they are getting ready to start spending a lot of money, finally, at Vanderbilt. I think the conference, quietly perhaps has said, you listen, you make a lot of money.
The fundraising efforts.
You need to spend some of the money that you're making. Okay, you really do need to upgrade some things, and maybe that'll help. I don't know. Look, if Wake Forest can be now, I know some will say, yeah, but Wake does it in the ACC, and they do. Mike Elko had Duke playing at a higher level. Northwestern has played at a higher level, maybe not of late. Stanford has played at a higher level. You can be an elite academic institution and be good at football. You're not gonna win the national title. Mm-hmm. I get it. The only elite institution academically that's going to have a shot at winning a national title on any regular basis is Notre Dame. So I get it. But how hot is his seat?
It's warm. It's warm. There's pressure because they fired Jerry Stackhouse for not getting it done. And Candace Story-Lee and Jerry Stackhouse had a really good relationship. Candace Story-Lee, the athletic director at Vanderbilt, and Clark Lee have a really good relationship. And I think they're at least doing something now. They're not going to make a bowl game this year. But what they can do is be interesting and kind of fun because of Diego Pavia and Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator. He is kind of a rising star in the coaching ranks. In terms of like creativity, he might be one of the more fun offenses to watch. I mean, at New Mexico State last year, there's a play where the halfback took a direct snap, handed it off to Pavia. Pavia then rolled out like he was going to run, pulled up, throws it into the flat or to on a route to the tight end. Tight end walks in for a touchdown in the red zone. They do a lot of creative stuff. If you can be creative and fun and be really interesting, even if you are 4-8, 5-7, that at least gets people at Vanderbilt invested. It's going to get them 2 games. They're finally finishing up the renovations to that stadium, which have, before last year, not been touched since 1984.
Right.
Has not been touched. That place was an absolute garbage can for decades. They finally invested money into that stadium. Does that money end up leading to better results? If it makes you at least fun this year and you retain a good portion of that team going into next season, I think that can save his job. But if they go 2-10 like they did last year and lose those games to UNLV, Wake Forest, like they did last season, this year those games are Virginia Tech, at Georgia State, Ball State, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
That's the drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy. Save $20,000 on new Silverados. Together, let's drive. We'll get Elijah's take one more time on This is Spinal Tap when the postgame show rolls on. 11 minutes in front of 6 o'clock on this Monday, final few minutes of the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. We'll get to Elijah's take on This is Spinal Tap, one of the movies that I loaned him. Again, a lot of you have chimed in on some movies that Elijah needs to watch. He watched Godfather and Godfather Part 2.
All in a day's work.
Let him borrow Fletch, Spinal Tap, and the Mel Brooks collection, some of which he's already seen, Mel Brooks-wise, but had not seen Spinal Tap. Somebody just hit us on the, was it on the text line or the YouTube line? I don't know which one. And said, if they kick Vanderbilt out, Carolina's next. Y'all, again, don't waste your breath. Don't waste the energy that it took you to type that.
Ain't happening.
It's not happening. I don't even, why even, whoever you are, why even respond? And I'm not trying to be too much of a jerk here, but it's not happening.
No.
They're not kicking anybody out of any conference unless there's some type of gross malfeasance.
A scandal of epic proportions.
Yeah, epic. So don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy. Now you're making me waste mine. It's not going to happen. Period. Okay? Can that person delete that so I don't have to see it again later? Or do we have to delete it? Or does it just stay there forever?
It just stays.
The internet's forever?
That's right. You can't unsend a text message.
Oh, God.
Even though I guess with Apple you kind of can now. You can edit a text message. A lame feature.
Yeah, don't you have like 5 minutes to do it, though?
I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, my phone's not updated to that point.
Yeah, it's not.
I think people also underestimate the need for the Vanderbilts of the world. I mean, they really do. Think of yourself as, random SEC team, Tennessee or Texas A&M, Florida even. Let's say you cut out the bottom four of the SEC to add a bunch of different schools that you think are highly coveted. Clemson, Florida State, like adding good schools.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your teams like Texas A&M, Tennessee, those can be the teams that are 4-8 on a regular basis.
Right.
And you know what those schools aren't going to like? Being 4-8 on a consistent basis. Someone has to finish last, folks.
Yeah.
Them's the rules.
Yeah.
Someone's going to finish last. In the college football ecosystem, especially in the SEC, Sharks need the minnows. You're going to need Vanderbilt on your schedule. I mean, I'm telling you, Texas, in their first year in the SEC, is very thankful for a trip to Vanderbilt, Nashville on October 26th. Because after that, they have Florida, at Arkansas, Kentucky, A&M, and before that, they come off back-to-back games against Oklahoma and Georgia. Yeah, they're thankful for that.
Yes.
And Greg Sankey's thankful for that because that way you're not trying to convince the committee to put an 8-4 team once you cannibalize yourself completely into the college football playoff.
Well, and that's another reason why we sit here and talk about the fact that, people say, oh, well, I mean, as soon as they can, Clemson and Florida State are going to join the SEC. Are they? And there's multiple reasons why I would say they're not. But amongst that, and you may say, well, what is anybody afraid of? The SEC's not afraid of anything. But to Elijah's point, if it comes to where everybody's 6-6 and 8-4 and things like that, how does that help?
It won't.
Yeah.
You can only flex your conference strength of schedule for so long.
And again, beyond that, financially, I don't think that Florida State and Clemson help the Southeastern Conference in addition to football, and they're good at football.
Which is the non-starter.
Yeah.
That's the total non-starter.
Yeah, I mean, you don't help the finances. But anyway, but again, let me say, they're not kicking any schools out of any conferences just because they think they're not good enough.
Nope.
That's not how it works. It's never worked that way, and it's not happening. And yeah, if you wanted Vandy to, quote, voluntarily leave, $750 million maybe?
Yeah. I mean, it's the amount of money they bring in they get from the SEC every year is so much to the point where it's going to take more than a Godfather offer.
Yeah.
More than that. That wouldn't even get done.
So Spinal Tap, you liked it?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 7. 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
The scale, unlike the amps for Spinal Tap, don't go to 11. Okay. This one stays at 10. But it's a 7 out of 10. I thought the humor was really good. It's going to require another rewatch to maybe catch some of the subliminal things, because you mentioned the sign, and that one just...
Yeah, there's a few things. Go back. There's a few things.
I'll have to give it a second watch. But the mockumentary format, I think, is fantastic. And that works really well with comedy. I think it's just a different writing style that bleeds over really good dialogue well.
What's the show with Fred Armisen? Not Portlandia, but the documentary, the fake documentary series that he's in. I think it was also
Fred Armisen.
I think it was on Netflix too. I can't remember now.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know Portlandia.
No, Portlandia is awesome, but that's not one I'm thinking of. But there's another one that he's part of that's like a bunch of like mockumentary stuff. It's great.
It's a great genre.
And again, you need to see Mighty Wind and Best in Show as soon as you can as well. All right, that's it for today. Brad Crawford talking more football tomorrow. We'll see you.